As far as like the fruit, like what and like the food matrix of it being like obviously fructose in like a juice format is not ideal compared to if you're just like eating a berry or like a banana or whatever, and it's like has the I know fibrous component of it, presumably. So it's like slowing the I don't know, spike in glucose. Like, is there any issue with that? Like for somebody who wants to hypothetically make a smoothie instead of like eat it whole and it's like pre-digested a little bit by like blending it, is that problematic?
I don't think so. I mean, you could test it by doing smoothies, checking your fasting insulin, checking your liver fat, getting a look at your
Mm,
visceral fat long term. It's kind
yeah.
of an interesting experiment. But so what I'll say is this: there's a conflation, there's nutritional reductionism, and people see studies with sucrose or fructose, processed fructose removal. And not surprisingly, we see improvements in inflammation, improvements in liver fat, improvements in insulin sensitivity. And they conflate that with fruit. But you can do the same studies with fruit. So Rick Johnson has done this. He's been on Atia's podcast. And actually, I just sent this study to Joe the other day because I thought that was so fascinating. I could probably pull it up here real quick in a moment. But he's done a randomized controlled trial where they did fructose reduction and they see improvements. And then in the fructose, in one arm of the reduced processed fructose group, they give them back 400 to 600 calories a day of fruit and they see no negativity. So they don't lose any of the benefits of reducing processed fructose with 400 to 600 calories of fruit per day. That's a lot of fruit. Like that's hundreds of grams of carbohydrates from fruit a day, or at least over 100 if you're talking 4 calories per gram. So that's really interesting. Um, and I think it speaks to this notion, which we see over and over, which is that it seems like voodoo or like hand wavy, but foods in the whole food form have more information. We see this with honey. Like you can give someone honey and they have increased nitric oxide precursors in their urine, and the endothelium function gets better if the honey is good. And then if you give somebody sugar, which many people would say, oh, honey is just processed sugar, all those things go the opposite direction. You can see the same thing in animal models, where you can give rats or mice sugar and they have all sorts of metabolic issues, and you give them honey and they actually have the reverse. It's pretty wild stuff. So I think that there's some sort of informational component. You can go further down the rabbit hole. I believe it's Josh Rabinowitz has done the studies with mice and rats and gavaging fructose. And there's, or maybe it's actually humans also. The intestines have a pretty significant ability to shield
And
the liver.
gavaging is just like sticking a thing in their mouth that orally administers
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Yeah. They just like shoot they
Okay,
shoot
because
in
people
there.
are probably like, "What the fuck is
It's
gavage?"
gavaging. Yeah, gavage. Yeah. But you can see that like they, on these animal models, they got up to 1 gram of fructose per kilogram of the animal before it was overflowing and going to the liver. The intestines had the ability to shield and transform the fructose into glucose, lactic acid, and maybe another metabolite. So that's quite interesting that like you would imagine that fruit could do that more than like a sugary soda or something where you max out that level. So I think, and high level, we know this. Like some people probably believe that soda is not harmful for humans, but I think most people invariably see health improvements when they cut out processed sugar. And that is, I think, very powerful and very easy to do for people. And it's a simple thing. But similarly, don't fear fruit. And I've done a whole podcast on this. I think it's great for humans. It's colorful, it's sweet. Evolutionarily, it makes sense. Hunter-gatherers go crazy for it when they can get it and, do it within reason. I'm probably on the upper end of what most people would do because I'm trying to get my carbohydrates now from what I would consider to be the least toxic plant sources. So I'm not using roots. I'm not using grains. Some people can choose to use those, see how you do. And I'm using fruit and honey. So I'm eating, multiple pieces of fruit per day and some maybe 4 tablespoons of honey per day. So
for like a normal person who has access to like a regular grocery store and they're trying to be cost effective and they get like a bag of frozen fruit, for example, like, do you still see that as like a reasonable, I don't know, approach to getting fruit in, or should they be spending way more on organic, fresh, like every time?
no, I mean, do what you can, right? I think that certain fruits appear to have more pesticides, but do the best you can.
Like the
And,
nutrient density, you don't see degraded into nothingness when it's frozen.
no, I think it's still okay. I think it's better
Okay.
the fresher it is, but I don't
Yeah.
think it's not worthless. And yeah, frozen fruit is good if you want to get frozen cherries or frozen peaches or whatever. And the nice thing about being in Costa Rica a lot of the time is we get amazing tropical fruit. So I can get papaya, mango, banana, guanabana, which is a sour sop. I can get pineapple, and it's all right there. It's mostly local and it's available frequently during different seasons. Mangoes, so it's interesting. I mean, the tropics are a great place for fruit. And then honey is good. Raw honey is a great adjunct for people. See how you do with it.